بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. جزاكم الله خير again for everyone that is tuning in today to continue our series inshallah ta'ala of Fiqh of fasting inshallah. These series are meant to be run during Ramadan time for our purpose of gaining knowledge and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on dalil and proof. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves our actions and loves our good deeds and our worship acts, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves for us to base our worship acts on dalil and proof. Inshallah ta'ala, we are going to finish today with the rulings on the traveler, a person that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows to break his or her fast during travel. And inshallah ta'ala, we had a session yesterday. For those of you who did not join us yesterday, you can inshallah ta'ala look up the video before this one, and it will have inshallah ta'ala the rulings on the traveler, and today we will finish it off. Inshallah ta'ala, today, Sister Sina, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward her, will take the notes. She volunteered to take the notes. Brother Muhammad did yesterday, mashallah. I will have to review the notes and see, how we can inshallah bring them together and how detailed it is. But for now, Sister Sina suggested that instead of really going through many students, and each student has different style, that I would consider, alhamdulillah, she is offering to help every day, and that is mashallah great virtues. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward her eminently, ya Rabbi, countlessly also. Sister Sina attended many of my classes, so she has my style, and she knows how I present things and also how I put things, because she attended all my classes like the 40 ahadith and what have you, and how we summarizes the information from the book and put it into a question and answer format. So inshallah, what we will do, since she offered to do it, alhamdulillah, every day, is that we will inshallah stick with that. And the fact that we have, alhamdulillah, all of you, especially Brother Muhammad Ibrahim now, volunteer as well, we will coordinate together, as if whenever she's not able to take it or what have you, we can have others that would back her up, inshallah ta'ala. So inshallah, for today, I want to finish off what we started yesterday with the thing. So inshallah, you still need to take your notes, and inshallah ta'ala consider writing it also in a format of a question and answer. And by all means, Brother Muhammad Ibrahim and everyone, you can always still send me your notes and how you gather the information from my lecture and put it into a question and answer, because that gives you the ability to be able to comprehend things more, and also have it as a quick reference for you in the future, inshallah. So now today is متى يجوز للمسافر أن يفطر? When is it allowed for the traveler to break his fast? And we're going to build on it, because we answered this yesterday. So we said for a long distance travel, and travel is defined according to our culture. What we know is travel that requires preparations, readiness, and mental and physical readiness to travel. And we actually said verbally that we are going to travel. And then the second condition is that besides the long distance, we said that it has to be part of the travel, is that we do not apply the conditions, or not the conditions, we do not apply the concessions or the rukhas or the allowance to a traveler unless he or she actually starts the travel and leaves his or her hometown. And we will go into more detail, inshallah ta'ala, today. And this is just basically what pertains to the so they have to leave their hometown, they leave it behind, so meaning that they cannot start from home. But of course, this is according to the jumhur, a majority of the scholars. Now, second question that we have for today is an example that we want to apply to what we just said and also what we said yesterday about the jumhur, the majority of scholars. Now let's bring an example, a scenario. Someone wants to travel tomorrow, Friday, after Salatul Jumu'ah at around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What are the rules that apply to that person? So that's the scenario. So tomorrow is Ramadan. He wakes up tomorrow in the morning. So before the Fajr at night, or before, like during Suhoor time, before Fajr of Friday tomorrow, according to the Jumhur, he still has the niyyah and intention to start the day of Jum'ah with fast. Remember yesterday we said the Jumhur said for a traveler to not start the day with fast, he has to leave before Fajr at night. And then when Fajr comes in, they continue their travel with breaking their fast. That's not an issue, but they need to start the travel before Fajr time. Now, our example says that he's traveling at Asr time at 4 o'clock. So what is he gonna do after Fajr tomorrow? According to the Jumhur, he has to have the niyyah to fast, and he's gonna start fasting. He's gonna pray Fajr with us. He's gonna pray Jum'ah with us, because still the concessions and allowance of a traveler did not apply to him, since he still physically did not leave Raleigh and hometown. Now, at 4 o'clock, he actually goes to the airport and checks in and gets on his plane and leaves. As he leaves Raleigh and he leaves North Carolina, basically Raleigh and his hometown, like Raleigh or the Triangle area, and he doesn't see, the housing behind him. Now he's more of on top of open land and whatever. This is where the definition of leaving town applies. Now, what if it's not an open land, but now we know that it's Charlotte and what have you, Greensboro, Charlotte, and what have you? Then still, that's leaving hometown, because the housing behind or under him are not his hometown housing. So this is where it applies, that now he's truly a traveler according to the Jumhur, remember, to the majority of scholars. At that moment, he's allowed to break his fast. At that moment, only that moment, he's allowed to break his fast. Now, he arrives to his destiny, or his final destination, let's say, is Atlanta, Georgia. Arrives, lands, and now he's in a different town. He already broke his fast and what have you. So that's the answer of when he is allowed to break his fast. So that's one question, inshallah. Now, the next question, that when he arrives to his final destination. Now, ماذا يلزم المسافر إذا أفطر ثم وصل إلى مكان إقامته? That's inshallah ta'ala. Before we go into this, there is something that I want to use still the scenario. Now he arrives at Atlanta, Georgia. Another question comes. He gets out of the airport, he goes to his hotel, and the travel duration is done, he's no longer traveling, would he stop now since he arrived to the hotel? And in the hotel, there are basically there are, or like even in his room, and let's say even down in the lobby there's an open buffet, or like there is a breakfast area, or whatever, and in his room some coffee maker and some snacks and what have you. Is he allowed to continue his ability to break his, or not to break, and to continue breaking his fast? Here is where it gets a little bit technical. And inshallah ta'ala, we're going to use the same scenario to apply most of the ahkam. Now, the majority of scholars, that's the jumhur that we usually follow, say that if he is staying 4 days and less, then yes, he's a traveler. Everything of rukhas and allowance is and does apply to him during those 4 days. If he stays 4 days knowing that he's going to stay 4 days for a conference and then coming back, he's allowed up to 4 days. What if the conference requires him to stay more than 4 days? So let's take scenario, same scenario, but A. He is going to a 3-day conference over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and flying back Sunday night and coming back to Raleigh, North Carolina, Monday morning. So that applies to 4 days and less. So here we go. He is a traveler. He continues to combine his prayers and to break his fast if he wishes, because he has a conference and it's a very, very intense conference and many things. So he would choose to break his fast. Answer, according to the Jumhur, yes, it's allowed and he has the full right to do so. What if it's more than 4 days? That scenario, same scenario, but branch, or let's say B. According to the Jumhur and to the majority, they say no. Since it is more than 4 days, then he is not eligible to be called a traveler anymore. He is a resident of Atlanta, Georgia, because he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. That's it. It's from day 1, day 2, he's settled. He has his rental car. He goes around and whatever. There is no need for him to be also called a traveler. And of course, if it's 10 days, 1 month, whatever, he's not a traveler. However, because it's more than 4 days, he only can, according to the Jumhur, access this rukhsa and concession just during his travel. So let's go back to the same scenario. The person that we talked about Friday, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, he's going to a conference in Atlanta, Georgia for 3 days. So he leaves at 4, he takes off, he leaves his hometown, he breaks his fast during the travel. He arrives to the hotel, sees that coffee maker in the room. He's still allowed to drink coffee during the day. He's offered a buffet in the cafeteria. He's allowed to eat with no issue, inshallah ta'ala. Second day, no problem. He goes to the conference, still drinks his coffee in the morning, no issue. Third day, drinks his coffee in the morning, no issue, and goes to the conference, eat whatever is allowed for him to eat, enjoy his time and that intense conference that he's going through. He can still access his concessions and rukhas. Then he travels back to Raleigh, and the second he arrives to Raleigh, then he will start the fast again because he's back to his residency. Same scenario. B, that was A. B is that he's leaving tomorrow, Friday, at 4 o'clock, but he's leaving for a duration of a full week for that conference. It's 7 days. It's not 3 days any longer. What if it's 5 days? Anything over 4 days, 5, 6, 7, and beyond, according to the vast majority of scholars, like the Jumhur. Now, because he knows that his conference is more than 4 days, it's 7 days, here is what only applies to him. That's B, that when he arrives to the airport of Atlanta, Georgia, he's still a traveler, still can drink his coffee, eat his food, and what have you. Goes to that during the day, goes to the hotel, settles and everything. It's almost Maghrib time. That day is allowed for him. Comes next day, he's not allowed to drink his coffee during the day or to eat or to drink during the day. He has to fast because he's staying in Atlanta, Georgia more than 4 days. He's not a traveler anymore. He has to plan to adjust his schedule to be a resident of that place, since he's going to stay in that hotel for 7 days, going back and forth with his rental car. Second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, seventh day, he has to fast. No, sorry, sixth day, he has to fast. Seventh day, the day that he's heading back to Raleigh, he is allowed to break that day, and he doesn't have to wait and to break his fast. He doesn't have to wait to leave the buildings and his hometown, because he's not in his hometown. Actually, I take this back. I'm sorry. I got a little bit ahead of myself. This is scenario B, I'm sorry, because we considered him to be a resident of Atlanta, Georgia. That's scenario A, where he doesn't have to fast or even to do anything. He's just free to do whatever he wants. B, because now he's considered to be a resident of Atlanta, Georgia. Come the 7th day, he's going to do very similar to what he did when he left Raleigh on Friday. So he's going to wake up as usual and fasting that day, the 7th day, goes to Atlanta airport and takes off, leaves the city, and then this is where he breaks his fast again, because now he is in a duration of a travel heading back to Raleigh. So that's like in a nutshell will give you what the majority of the Jumhur say. This is one of the cases where we in our class will respectfully not follow the Jumhur and the majority of the scholars. With deep research, there is really nothing that really specifies in the Sunnah about 4 days, 10 days, 14 days, and 21 days, or 20 days, 19 days. All the opinions of the scholars were based on incidents where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ traveled different locations, sometimes Mecca, sometimes Tabuk, sometimes, to different places. And each time he would stay in a place more than the other, so he would combine his prayers, and if he would not fast and whatever. But again, these numbers came because that was the duration of his stay. It didn't say that because of the four. Where does the four come from? The four comes from his travel to his Hajj journey, the Hajjatul Wada. He went from Medina to Mecca. He stayed 4 days in Mecca before he started the Hajj rituals, and he combined prayers, he shortened prayers, and of course he was not um, uh, he didn't fast, even though it was the Ashr of Dhul Hijjah, which is very, very ritual and very virtuous to fast. He didn't fast. He left after the fourth day, and this is where the scholars got the magical number four, that really were very adamant about four. They said because he stayed for, and when he left, he went to Mina and what have you, very, very deep details. But respectfully, we take that. But there is really nothing that says that because when he went to Mecca for 19 days, he combined and shortened the prayer for 19 days. When he went to Tabuk, it was 20 days, so he did 20 days. So again, the scholars of the opinion of 4 days declare and claim that the 4 days were I'm sorry, the 19 and the 20 days and what have you were not known. He went to Mecca, not to the opening of Mecca, that is, not the Hajj, not knowing exactly how long he will stay, and that's why he combined and shortened more than 4 days. Same thing with Tabuk. He went on an expedition, not knowing when he's gonna come back. So again, he kept shortening and combining because of that. But when he went to Mecca, knowing that he's gonna stay in Mecca only 4 days, he shortened and he combined. He combined and then he left after, so he can still be considered a traveler. Didn't stay more than 4 days. I know it's confusing, but inshallah ta'ala, as you digest this, I want you to not let it go. Keep repeating the video again and again, because with this concept, you are going to become a scholar of many questions to come. Fasting, breaking fast during travel, without even Ramadan, the ahkamul musafir in prayer, to pray, how to pray, when to shorten the prayer, when to combine and when not to combine. And with that comes many other rules and regulations of sunnah, dropping the sunnah, not praying the sunnah, when do I do it, and all what have you. Okay, so inshallah ta'ala, let it go. We're going to continue with the same scenario, coming back to Raleigh. Now, when that person comes back to Raleigh, let's say the conference of the whatever. In coming back, we're not really. It doesn't make any difference whether it's 4 or 7, whatever. Now coming back, let's say coming back, just for the sake of the discussion, coming back on. We said Monday morning. Remember? Okay, Monday morning. So as coming back Monday morning, after Fajr, that is, now arrives Monday morning at 10 o'clock, Raleigh. Of course, he broke his fast because he was he broke his fast because of his travel. Comes in Raleigh at 10 o'clock. Now, according to the Hanafis, the first school and the last school, Hanafis and Hanbalis, he must stop eating and drinking when he gets to his house. Must. Haram, cannot eat or drink. طيب. And then, of course, has to make up the day because it's not a fasting day, but must stop and refrain, even if it's not counted. According to the middle two schools of thought, the Maliki and the Shafi'i, it's not a must on him because the day did not start with a fast anyway, but it's highly recommended to refrain from eating and drinking, so he would not deceive people, or people would think that, especially publicly, that he's not fasting Ramadan, so it would not be a good example. And for his family, what about inside his house? Even inside his house, according to the Hanafis and Hanbali, haram. According to the Malikis and Shafi'i, it's not recommended. Even in front of his household members, is because of respect to the month, that he's not drinking and eating in front of them and what have you. So that's the answer for this. Now, let me see if I missed anything. So we talked about that. Let me see. I'm just looking. I think, inshallah, we covered them all. I think we did it, inshallah ta'ala. Now, last thing that I want to tell you about, if we're not going to follow the Jumhur and the vast majority of the scholars, what opinion are we following? The opinion that we are going to follow is the opinion that is like the easiest description of traveler. So if the traveler actually travels, so we're going to stick with the Jumhur about leaving hometown. Okay, so we're not going to break the fast from early morning, even though it has a dalil in it, but we're just going to stick to be very cautious. What if after we break the fast, then from that point on, after we break the fast, after we leave behind Raleigh and the Triangle area, and we break the fast, if we decided to break the fast, then it is allowed for that person that went to Atlanta, Georgia conference to basically apply all the concessions and the allowance and the rukhas, whether it's 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 2 weeks. As long as he's not settled in Atlanta, Georgia, it's a conference and what have you, then he comes back. When he comes back, he's still allowed to break his fast and shorten and combine the prayers. And when he gets back to Raleigh, again, we talked about the rulings. He would refrain from eating and drinking. Whether adopts the opinion of haram or disliked, we should refrain because we're back in town, and that day is not counted and has to be made up. But still, out of respect to the month, we're not going to eat and drink while we are at home. So that is the opinion we are going to adopt, knowing that this is not settlement. It's a hotel, it's a rental car. Still, a foreigner in that place doesn't know much the area and what have you. That is completely different than the scenario of a student of knowledge that comes, for example, from overseas with the intention to finish his higher education, attaining his PhD and what have you at NC State. That is only the duration of the travel. Then he comes with the intention of settling here for 6 years, for example, coming not to a hotel, coming to a dwelling, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a house, whatever it is a settlement. That person will follow our residency and will become a resident of Raleigh, North Carolina for 6 years until he finishes his PhD, or or less than 6 years. But in general, if it takes like the max and what have you, then as he travels back to his home country, then he would become resident in his home country. Of course, the popular question comes, what if he goes back and travels back and forth during those 6 days when he goes back to his home country. Is he a resident in Raleigh? Yes. Is he a resident back home? And the answer is it varies, but we're gonna honestly take the opinion, at least what I adopt is that uh, it's really flexible. There is really nothing that we can be adamant about, because when he goes back, still it's not a hotel, it's not a rental car, it's his family there, that's his own house that he grew up with, that's his own country that he grew up in, and what have you. So that's not really a foreign country or a foreign place for him. So what I feel more comfortable with is that both are considered residency. In that scenario, he is only allowed to apply and to exercise the concessions and the rukhas only during the period of travel. Airplane taking off, a full day here and a full day coming back, and what have you. That's the only concessions that he can use, is inshallah. Last thing that I want to finish with is about the scenario that we talked about. Even the Jumhur, and I want you just to concentrate with me on the Jumhur that restricts travel concessions and all that thing that comes with it to 4 days. They themselves say if a traveler travels to the same destination or same final destination, not knowing how many days he or she is going to spend in that place. So if we take the same scenario that we have, the same person that leaves tomorrow at 4 o'clock arrives to Atlanta, Georgia, having no idea that it's not a conference anymore. That person is going for technical difficulties of a company that bought their software, for example, and he's going there as a technical supporter, having no idea the problem that they're facing and debugging that issue and what have you, and bringing the system back up as it was, whether it's going to take only 1 day, 2 days, 10 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months. He has no idea. Has no idea how long it's going to take. Honestly, it's really unknown. With that scenario, even according to the Jumhur that are very strict on the 4 days, they say the 4 days because he knew that it's going to be 4 days or less, or he knew it's going to be 5 days and more. That's why the restrictions applies and he becomes a resident. The scenario that we just talked about, the technical supporter, they say because he doesn't know, or like another scenario is a family that comes here from overseas to the US, even to Raleigh, North Carolina, or Durham, North Carolina, to seek treatment for their loved ones. And they have no idea, no idea. So they're settling in a house, in an apartment, whatever, but they have no idea how long the treatment would take. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you and protect your family. Let's say it's a cancer treatment and they have no idea how long it's going to take, whether it's going to succeed or not, no idea. But they're settling in a house and everything, whatever. But still, that's not their land. And it could be just a 1 week treatment, 1 month, and it could be 1 year and 2 years. So for them, even according to the Jumhur and the majority of scholars, they're not settlers. So they can apply all the ahkam of concessions and rukhas, and he is a traveler, whether it pertains to salah or to siyam. So that's in a nutshell all the rulings about the traveler, inshallah. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. Jazakumullahu khairan. Barakallahu feekum for tuning in. I want to just, inshallah, thank you all again for your commitment. And as I said, inshallah, keep repeating the video to really digest this very well, because this will open up doors for you in the future to whatever answer comes from any sheikh or imam. You now understand all these differences of opinion. That's why when people don't have this background, like you just did now, that's why they say we look up on Google and it's very confusing, too confusing. We don't know, too many opinions, whatever that thing is. It's just because they don't know all these backgrounds, these details, they don't know it. So they say, well, 4, 12, 19, if it's 10, if it's not, when it comes back, stop there. And they have no clue. They said it's very confusing. Of course, because it's not based on knowledge. It's just based on looking up something. And when you just look up something without a background, you can never be able to digest and to understand well. That's it, my dear students. And inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to leave this with you, inshallah, until we meet back again on Monday, next Monday, inshallah ta'ala. So we can give you a break to look through your notes and bring them together and get ready, inshallah, for next session. Again, inshallah ta'ala, I'll review Sister Sina's notes for yesterday and today, and Brother Muhammad Ibrahim's notes from yesterday. And whatever is missing, we put them together, inshallah, and we'll share with you the notes. Inshallah ta'ala, on Monday, you can just type in your email so we can get them, or you can email it to me. Actually, it would be easier so I don't have to follow up. You can just follow up with me, otherwise I'm going to forget. Since I shared with you my email, please email me your email, or just email me that I'm one of your students and whatever, so we can start, inshallah. Whenever we have notes available, we can share it together, and maybe we'll just put them toward the end of the session in slides, and inshallah share it with all of you. Jazakumullah khair, barakallah fikum. May Allah accept your good deeds and your fast and your qiyam, inshallah ta'ala. Allahumma ameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care. See you on Monday, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.